Good morning, remote learners. This is a quick check-in. The last thing you need to do for last Wednesday's work is complete your reading contract. It's not an assignment that you do and hand in the next day. It's a month-long assignment where you keep track of the books that you've been reading. So on the next page, next slide, we'll be looking at the contract and what you need to do. So you have one in Google Classroom. So what I want you to do is, after you watch this video, then go into yours and start it. And each Friday we'll do a check-in where you add more to it. And then on October 16th, you will be finished with this first month's contract, and then you will send it to me. So the next slide, I'll show you exactly what I want you to do. So this is the September-October reading contract, and you'll notice it has some text that we want to look at, and a couple of the reasons why I require you to read 2 books a month and read 30 minutes each day at home. So the first quote comes from a national reading organization, and it's really important to me because I think it really speaks for those kids who say, well, geez, Mrs. Rich, I don't read, or I don't like to read. Well, not reading and not liking to read are 2 different things, and hopefully by the end of your time with me, you'll at least find books that you do like to read and become more of a reader. So here's the quote that I think is super important. Students who read less well. And that's true of any skill. Students who play soccer less well. Students who play the flute less, play less well. So just substitute the verb read with any other verb, and if you don't do it very often, you're not going to do it very well. So students who read less well. Students who read less well do less well in school. And that's true because if you don't read very often, then all the text you have to read, especially at the high school level, just gets harder and harder and harder. People who do less well in school do less well in the workplace and participate less in civic life. And civic life means anything from voting to participating in your community, being a part of your community environment. The only way to become a better reader is to read. It is the ultimate hands-on learn by doing experience. All students are required to read 2 books per month for independent reading. Students may choose any books they wish to read for this component of language arts. The only restriction is that each book must be a minimum of 100 pages. Students will share their readings in book talks, written responses, and in online chat forums. You may only count each book once, even if you read it several times. So for example, if you're an absolute fanatic for the book Hatchet and you read it 27 times, that's still only 1 book. So if you read Hatchet 27 times, you're only going to count it once in your contract. So here's where these are the details that you're going to need to fill in on your contract. So we started the contract on Friday, so you're going to put September 18th. Even though school started on the 2nd, this contract starts on the 18th, and any books that you read prior to the 18th are certainly going to count. This contract expires on October 16th. I will complete blank number of books, so the minimum is 2. And if you read 2, then you've met the standard. If you read more than 2, you will exceed the standard. So you're going to sign it, and then when I get your contract on the 16th, I will sign it, because a contract is an agreement between 2 parties. You're going to agree to read, and I'm going to agree to provide you with books. So even though you're at home, if there are books that you want, just send me an email and I can bag them up and I can leave them in the office for you. So that way you'll always have the books that you want. So then the last part is where we have a table. It says book title, underline, author, number of pages, date completed, and rating. So for this one, I'm going to make that bigger. I've read, finished a book, and I'm almost finished with a second. So the first book that I read was The Worst Class Trip Ever. And it's underlined because it's a book title. The author was Dave Barry. It had 201 pages. I completed it on 9/11, and I'm going to give it a 3, that it was good. It wasn't great, but it was funny. So the book that I'm reading right now is The Big Garage on Clear Shot. And I do need to underline it because it's a book title. And the author is Tom Bodett. And you can type this. As you can see, my penmanship on a Monday morning is terrible. It's 300 pages. I haven't finished it yet, and I'm not going to rate it yet because I'm not done. So each week I'm going to ask you to take some time and update your contract. And then on October 16th, you will share this with me. And then I'll look at it and get it and send it back to you so you have your copy. And then I'll push out the October-November contract. So I'll push out a new contract form every month, and it's usually about the same date. So this will be November 16th, October 16th, and November 16th, and so on. You will be expected to read during the winter holidays and February break, so just make sure that you're always having something to read.